Welcome to the A to Z of Licensed Games, a series of vids about games that take something from something else. Now let's talk about parties. Awkward little things, aren't they? Especially if there's some complete bastard there who's had just that little bit too much to drink and is starting to bother people. Or, you know, it could be worse than that. Maybe there isn't a bastard there at all. Until, of course, you've had too many and you realise, in the midst of all your excessive drinking, loud swearing and mock humping of the host, that you're the bastard. Very awkward. The sort of social failure that's hard to recover from, and there's no real outlet for these worries to be expended upon. Until now. How to Be a Complete Bastard is an old computer game where you go to a party and, well, do exactly what the title says. Now you might wonder how come it's a licensed game. Well, it's actually based on a quite popular comedy book in the 80s by British actor-comedian Adrian Edmondson, and you even get to play as Aid himself in this game. Now I've not actually read the book myself, but it does contain such gems as join the Free Nelson Mandela Society and demand your free Nelson Mandela, this being the 1980s and all, and he was still in prison at the time. It's an alternative comedy tie-in game. Ben Elton would be so proud, if he wasn't dead inside. Anyway, what do you do in this game? Well, your aim is simply to get as many bastard points as possible. Let me demonstrate. Whenever you look at something and find an item, you're given a multitude of options asking what you want to do. Most of them are quite destructive. Throwing pens, eating condoms, smashing plates, squashing burgers. This is basically what you do for the whole game. I mean, it's not just this, of course, there is more. Go to the kitchen and help yourself to large amounts of drink and or food. Get the matches and start burning things. Take that pen you got earlier and stab someone with it. And simply relax and just get into the rhythm and mood of being a complete bastard. The sort of guest who will not only be banned from all future gatherings, but will also cause the banning of whoever invited him. So you've done all manner of things, you've squeezed your zits in the bathroom mirror, pissed up a tree, drank so much that the room's spinning, you've turned into a frickin' oven. So what do you do now? Well, you just go into the kitchen and let off a fart that could sink a battleship. Quite literally, as it turns out. Such is the, alas, short life of the complete bastard. How to Be a Complete Bastard is funny, at least for a little while, even if there is basically nothing to the game. Of course, it does all depend on your sense of humour. Knowing the work of Aid Edmondson and his character from all the TV shows helps. You know, the Dangerous Brothers, the Young Ones, Filthy Rich and Cat Flap Bottom, all that sort of shit. You know, breaking stuff was basically the order of the day in all those shows. And of course it helps if you're a kid. I remember getting this game for free on a Your Sinclair cover tape back in the day, and I dumbly read the title out loud and was immediately bollocked by my parents. And from that moment on, I knew I wanted to play the game. You know, this game helped make me the person I am today, and I can proudly say that there are no bastards whatsoever anywhere to be found in the parties that I go to. But if you've got an important social event coming up and you're feeling a little bit anxious about it, play this and just let off some steam. Let yourself go. Join us. The two most famous titles in this vid's honourable mentions are text adventures. There's no genre that's more suitable for a video, I think you'll agree. Let's look at Infocom's The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Beam Software's The Hobbit. The Hitchhiker's Guide was co-designed by no less a person than Douglas Adams himself, so you should absolutely play it if you're in any way a fan. It's quite hard and fiendish. If you want to beat it, you'll have to think like you would in the book, rather than relying on all the usual go north, take item palaver. The Hobbit is a bit more of that go north, take item palaver, but it was celebrated mainly because it had a very advanced text engine for the time that meant you could actually put in proper sentences and talk sort of like a real freaking person. I mean, seriously, putting this sort of stuff in was top-spec shit for 1982. And it has a couple of decent and, well, okay anyway, pictures to boot. And anyway, well, there they are, text adventures. And what's the first thing you do when you load up a text adventure? Indeed. We are such mature people, aren't we? Well, at least I am. Okay, enough text. Let's go to this. This is Hokuto no Ken, a 2D fighter by the same guys who do Guilty Gear. and it's brilliant. If I'd known this game before the A to Z, it would have probably been the featured title, because it's exactly the sort of fighting game I like. No matter what buttons I press, I manage to do crazy things with particle effects. And as you'd expect, there's lots and lots of shouting. This game achieves so much. Not only is it a very good fighting game, it's also a good game in a series that has endured shit game after shit game after shit game. If you like the series, then you really need this game. And finally, we have Hill Street Blues for the Amiga. Now, is this another case of a tie-in being pointlessly turned into a dumb side-scroller or platformer? Actually, no. It's a game where you manage a police force. You play as Captain Furillo. Sensible use of the license, actually. A couple of things. This is a very slow-paced game, the graphic icons can be confusing at first, and you absolutely need a city map if you're going to get anywhere, which I presume you'd find in the game's box, so obviously I wasn't able to get very far with it. But it's a nice little premise. Apparently the act of responding to crimes and arresting perps does get a bit old after a while, but there are other things you can do like set up roadblocks or, well, go a little postal. Now I can't think of many other police management sims around, so this may be worth your trouble. If nothing else, it's a decent companion piece for the Police Quest series. Just remember the 3 Ps. Procedure, procedure, and... ah shit, I forgot the last one. Anyway, let's be careful out there. It's shit room time! Nothing too special today, but we do have a game based around Highlander for your perusal. Funny thing is that I would expect there to be more games based around Christopher Lambert and his big sword fighting through time film or whatever it is, seeing as it appears to be just the sort of subject programmers would be interested in. But no, just a game for the current generation that never came out, an Atari Jaguar title that I've never even heard of, and this Commodore 64 game by Ocean, a very primitive and lousy beat 'em up. It's kind of like a lot of old school beat 'em ups with one button. To throw moves you hit the button with a direction. Occasionally this gives you a slow and methodical fighting game, something like Karateka for example. Most of the time though, and especially here, it means you have the most success if you simply bash the button until your fingers bleed and waggle the joystick like you were tramping a bush overlooking a nudist beach. That is basically all you do in the game. Just forget about strategy altogether, hit hit hit, bash bash bash, waggle waggle waggle, and there you go. A fight ends, as you'd expect, with a decapitation, which looks like this. Not much cop compared to the head-lopping action in Barbarian, which came out only a few months later. To be honest, there's very little to say about this game. All the characters just look like dwarves, there's no real graphic action to speak of, and no music aside from the intro theme. It barely uses any of the C64's parlour tricks at all. Now we've seen Ocean produce some really good stuff with movie tie-ins in this list, Great Escape, Cobra, Batman, but this is an example of what a fair few of them would be like. Incredibly lazy games that, more than anything else, felt utterly pointless. It's also a neat little example of what fighting fans had to live with in those dark days before Street Fighter 2 came out. This wasn't the exception, you know, this was the norm. I certainly wouldn't go back in time to pick this one up if I were you. And with that awful ending in place, the video's over. Next up is the letter Y, and if you've got even a brain cell's worth of sense in your body, I think you know what's next. Get your wanks out, because it's time for Indiana Jones. There'll be more than just that though, another classic comic book character takes the stage, and there's a game that, well, can only be described as art. But until then, thanks for watching, and wherever you are, whoever you be, have a good one, take care, and I'll see you next time.